Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at the Obey 10F. In real life, of course, it's based on the Audi R8, the second generation. I've done mine up to look like the Decennium Special Edition, and Decennium is Latin for decade. As you compare the car with its real life counterpart, you'll see they're actually very close. Lots of minor differences, of course. The only major difference that stands out and slightly spoils it for me is the strake along the doors cutting into the air intake, because of course on the real car that's not there and it is pretty noticeable. Well, strake or no strake, I think the car looks fantastic and I certainly could not wait for it to drop with the DLC. The question is it just a pretty face? Well, we'll find out shortly, but just a quick chat about the real life car. The first gen R8 was Audi's own design. It was made for about 10 years, finishing in 2015. Of course, that is the 9F in game. Then it was followed up by this, the more angular, slightly more aggressive looking second generation. This car shares a lot of its architecture and parts with the Lamborghini Huracan. The first generation of this car got the Lamborghini Gallardo V10 in 2009, so in 2019 the Decennium, this car, was produced to celebrate that 10-year anniversary of the V10. They made 222 of them, and I don't know if any have ever come to the UK. I've certainly never seen one. It's a slight cheek me making this as a Decennium, because the Decennium was based on the Quattro four-wheel drive version of the car, whereas in game this is in fact a rear-wheel drive car, so you could argue perhaps you should be making something like a rear-wheel drive performance version, which came out quite recently. Well, you've been watching it drive on the road and you can see really how it drives. You've got a rather nice noise from the engine, and it's a mid-engine car. It does not understeer very much, and you've seen quite a few snap oversteer moments. It means the car needs to be treated with a little bit of respect, and certainly the odd bump can set it going like you just saw, but overall I think it adds to the fun, the feel, the drama of driving this car. You've always got the lovely view, the great sound, the little skids, good acceleration. It just makes you feel good to drive around the map. When we take it on track, its performance is very much dictated by whether you have a skid or not. For example, on one lap that skid looks glorious, but it loses time. This one does not look glorious, and it loses even more time. Anyway, here's my fastest lap without any of those skids. I drove it again very recently in the snow, and I've inset that lap as well, so you can see that in fact in the snow the car was very well behaved. It mainly lost time just by having to brake earlier for the corners, to be honest with you. Just a little bit of care and it's a very easy lap to do. It's not as hard as you might think with the mid-engine and the bits of oversteer we've talked about. And if you look at Bruffy's tables, the car is fairly competitive in the class. It's weirdly in the sports class, even though it's a supercar, and it's in my supercar garage. And 16th place in the class, somewhere near the Elegy and the Sultan Classic. About 2.5 seconds behind the Italy GTO, so not quite competitive, unless of course you're just racing against idiots, which is often the case, in which case perhaps it would be. If you put your finger on the screenshot button and take an image about now, you should find all my customization to make a Decennium. It's almost become a tradition to finish by driving the car up the coast road at sunset, and this video is no different. As always, I'll start rating the car on looks. And for looks, I'm going to give it 5 stars. If I did half stars, I'd give it 4.5. I'd take a half point off for the strake. But I just can't bear to give it only 4 stars because I think it looks really, really good. And there's enough of the correct spoilers and slaps and stuff in there for you to make all sorts of additions, not just this one. Moving on to driving, I'm going to give this car 4 stars. You may well be aware I always take a point off if the car is not competitive in the class, and it isn't quite competitive in the class, so I do regretfully take that star off. But the other 4 stars are fully deserved. This is one of my favourite vehicles. I'll often call the mechanic for this one to drive around in, just because it's so much fun to drive. By the time you bought one and done it up, it's going to set you back between 1.8 and 1.9 million. In today's economy, that's actually not that bad, so I think the car is pretty good value for money. I'm going to give it another 4 stars. So 5, 4 and 4 on the stars. I think this is a superb car and it's absolutely worth a place in your collection in my opinion. I'd love to read your thoughts on the car in the comments below, or even your thoughts on my thoughts. Also, if there's a car you would like me to showcase, please do let me know down below because I find it so hard to choose. If you enjoyed this, please do consider hitting that like button down below, it really does help. And thank you so much for watching.